Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now I'm going to start this video off with a preface, so I give no excuses for anybody that wants to come in here and call me a UFC shill, okay? There seems to be a bit of like an anti-UFC trend that goes on among mainstream MMA media. For instance, Ariel Helwani, ever since Jamal Hill became champion, was kind of degrading of him as a champion, saying that he doesn't think he's the real champion. He's the champion on paper. He doesn't think he's the best 205er in the world. He thinks that Nemkov at Bellator is better. And it was strange because Yuri Prohaska won the belt off of the same guy in Glover Teixeira in a much less, impressive fashion. But Ariel Helwani would just spout on about, since Yuri Prohaska's not there, Jamal Hill's not the real champion, just so he could say Bellator had the best 205er on the planet. Or, Luke Thomas, who quite frequently will spout anti-UFC rhetoric, or then you get guys at MMA Junkie, guys at Yahoo News. It happens all the time, okay? Now, some of them, Luke Thomas mainly, will critique on occasion other MMA organizations, especially ONE FC, but for the most part, it's all anti-UFC. I've done videos in the past defending the UFC from these attacks, not because I don't think that there's anything worthy of criticism on behalf of the UFC, but because of the hypocrisy and the double standards that they don't criticize Scott Coker and Bellator. They don't criticize the PFL. They don't get the same level of criticism. And to me, it seems like they don't care if you're shady. They only care if you're good at it. Do you know what I mean? So as long as you're not successful, but you're still actively trying to be shady or actively participating in shady business practices, that's fine. But if you're successful as Dana White in the UFC, while being shady, that's a problem. And I've said in multiple videos before that I believe if Scott Coker had the ability to, he would do everything Dana White does, because he would make way more money that way. You know what I mean? Like, if they were in the position of a Dana White, they would be the ones getting criticized, but they're not, okay? This is all about, I stumbled across a clip on Instagram, and I watched the clip, and I first thought, okay, well, I'm not going to spoil it. I don't want to tell you what my initial thoughts were, but I sent it to somebody to see what their initial thoughts were, because I wanted to see if I was just being a little too cynical. I'm going to play the clip for you guys, and then I'm going to give you what my initial reaction was, and then I'm going to tell you what I thought just a few seconds later after thinking about it a little bit more, and then I'm going to ask your guys' opinion on it. And I'm not going to keep, this video is not going to be too long, because I don't want to end up looping and just repeating myself over and over again. But just before anybody comes in here and calls me a UFC shill, I have definitely critiqued Dana White, I've definitely critiqued the UFC, I just also critique the other ones. That's it, okay? Now, I'm going to pull it up right here. This is Dan Hardy. I don't even know how I found this clip. It was literally in my Explorer on Instagram. I'm going to play it for you, and then we will talk about it after that.
Do is to put some amateur fights on the undercard of the PFL events to tie in the amateur base, the base of mixed martial arts across the countries, and also give them a platform to be able to walk out and feel the event before they're putting any marks on their pro record. And then, if the PFL feels right for them, then we'll look at pro debuts on the PFL as well.
Okay, so on my the few seconds after I first watched that, I thought, you know what? That actually kind of seems like a pretty cool concept, and I'm surprised nobody has thought of it before. That was what I thought, because I thought, well, he's right. Why not give them the feel? And, they'll get the feel of the big show. Maybe they could even get a sponsor or something from that, you know what I mean, if they become a popular amateur fighter. And that way, I don't know, I just thought it was cool for a second. And then I thought, you know what, dude? That sounds an awful lot like what happens to college athletes. Amateur fighters don't get paid, okay? That to me sounds like the PFL, maybe because they gave Francis Ngannou so much fucking money, okay? Even though they've got investors in Saudi Arabia, allegedly, and they're trying to buy Bellator, so they're spending a fuck ton of money, so it would make all the sense in the world that this is them trying to save a buck. That's what this seems like to me. We're going to fill the undercard with amateur fighters. So guess what? We don't have to pay them. And I just want to point out, dude, that if Dana White was the one who came up with this idea, which he probably has in the past, and he probably thought what I'm thinking now, It's just too obvious. If Dana White was the one that came up with this idea, I have a sneaking suspicion that every MMA media outlet would be covering it extremely unfavorably, and I haven't heard a single MMA media outlet even mention this. It's crazy to me, dude. Dana gets shit on for the Contender Series guys because, and that is a way for them to save money, 100%, dude. You get these guys on a starting contract, 12 and 12 or whatever the fuck it is. You can inflate your roster with a bunch of cheap guys, and then you can afford to pay your big stars a little bit more, so that maybe to the public opinion, or what gets shown to the public doesn't look as bad. When you see Israel Adesanya makes like fucking $4 to $6 million for a fight or something, you're like, oh, see, they do get paid well. But then you don't realize that homeboy that just came off the Contender Series just got paid 12 grand because he got starched in his debut. This is worse than that. This is worse than that. They'd be paying them dick. And obviously, there are arguments that there's pros and cons to it. Because as I said, maybe they get a sponsor. Maybe they're able to build a fan base, and then maybe they can get sponsors on social media. They get to feel what it's like to be at a big show, right? So that when they do get to the professional stage in their career, it's not as intimidating to them. There's also cons, though, on that same side, right? So all of the blemishes on their amateur record that oftentimes we would never see unless you go look on like Tapology or something like that. That'll get blasted out there for the world to see also, right? Which I'm sure a lot of professional fighters wouldn't even want people to see their amateur fights because they would probably be embarrassed, right? With the amount of progression that they've gone through throughout their career and things like that. And then on top of that, they're straight up just fucking taking money. They're going to be making money on these events, right? And they're paying their talent $0. Do you know what I mean? If Dana White did this, or suggested this, I'm slurring my fucking words. I don't know why, dude, but I feel as though if Dana White suggested this, there would be a fucking problem. And I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I've heard Luke Thomas mention the college athlete thing before and how it's a fucking a scam, robbery, like they should be getting paid, blah, blah, all this stuff. And dude, to be quite honest, they probably should be. They make those schools and the NCAA in general a fuck ton of money, and they get paid dick. You know what I mean? Build their profile maybe, but even that argument, if you try to use that argument for UFC guys, people shit all over you, dude. You think Francis Ngannou would ever have been in the position to get a fat bag from PFL had he not fought in the UFC, right? So maybe they were only paying him 600 grand a fight, but he's got over 5 million followers on Instagram. That is only because he fought in the UFC. But for some reason, if you make that argument with someone like that, or a Corey Anderson, or Sergio Pettis, or any of the guys that went to Bellator to get more money, because their profile was bigger, because they fought in the fucking UFC, people don't accept that argument. But I haven't seen, and dude, if you read the comments, or at least when I read the comments, they were like 98% glazing Dan Hardy for this, saying what a good idea it was. Wow, that's going to be so amazing. PFL over UFC. Go back to UFC, you fucking casual. To the one guy that mentioned, you know what, dude? That seems a little shady. You know what I mean? And I'm going to... well, it's not really a preface because now it's after the fact, but fucking whatever, dude. I don't know what to call it at that point, but either way, dude, okay? There's a big difference between what you can get away with legally in business and what might feel morally reprehensible, right? And I feel like a lot of businessmen and a lot of fight promoters kind of skirt that line where it's like, well, yeah, the law says you can do that, but if you think about it from like a moral standpoint, you're kind of like, that seems a little shitty. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not implying that they're doing anything illegal, obviously, but I am saying that seems a little fucking shady, okay? It seems a little shady. I think it's shady for college athletes. I think it's shady here. And I think that if Dana White were to have suggested this, or were to just start doing that, it would be like fucking blasted everywhere as exactly what it is, him trying to save money. And that's what I think, dude. Now, the person that I sent it to, because I thought at first maybe I'm just being cynical, I sent it to my brother. Whoops, hit my fucking mic, dude. Sent it to my brother to see what he thought about it, and that was the first thing he said. And he goes, I'm not necessarily against it, but that it seems like they're trying to make money or trying to save money. And I'm like, that's exactly what I thought. If you read the comments, they're fucking glazing. And if it was Dana White, it would be, oh, how fucking evil, horrible, big corporation, blah, 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 blah. Don't be mad at somebody because they're more successful at being shitty than you. You know what I mean, dude? If you can be shitty and not use it to your advantage, you are still shitty. Dana White's just good at being shitty and then using it to his advantage. And the PFL's trying to do it too. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, please. I want to know if I am being too cynical. I know that it does seem like a good idea. Like I said, on the experience side for the amateur fighters, because look, they'd be fighting for free anyways. Do you know what I mean? But it's just shitty that they're going to be filling a card that they're going to be making money off of with guys that aren't getting paid. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.